Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. I have found one of the coolest instances of ghost evidence I think I've ever come across, and I feel like I have to share this with you guys. It's very well known, but was not known by me, so I'm sure a lot of you are not familiar with it either. But this occurred in a house in 1985, just outside of LA, where basically paranormal activity was captured through a Polaroid camera. A man named John Mitkowski had just moved into this house, even though it was made in 1908. It was new to him in 1985. So he moves into this house, and it does have a little bit of weird activity. He's not sure exactly what it is, but it starts out as just like knocking sounds and just kind of an overall feeling of like a presence that's there, but nothing too crazy. John Mitkowski has a friend named John Huckert, which would probably be super confusing for their friends having two guys named John, but they were hanging out at his house talking about some of the activity, and Huckert happened to have a new to him Polaroid camera with him. So he starts kind of going around the house snapping some pictures. Well, his newly acquired camera has started doing something a little weird. He notices that in the photos as they develop, which most people are familiar with Polaroids even though they're not really used as much today. Now they're like the little bitty tiny ones if they are. But the film develops right before your eyes. And they start noticing these weird wispy anomalies inside the pictures. After a few pictures around the house, they notice that it's not just these weird wispy lines. The lines are forming words. So this is something that they're already kind of weirded out by. Don't know a whole lot about it, but they do have the urge to debunk it. So the next time that they decide to conduct this experiment, they bring a bunch of new film, decide to open the new film right then and there, take some pictures, see what happens. And each time they do open a new package of film, it still develops words and wispy marks. After this has occurred for a little while, they decide to share some of the information with some close friends. So they let their friend Ross know one day whenever he's over that something is appearing in this film. Ross is a skeptic and really not believing this, so he kind of sarcastically grabs the camera and just walks over and decides he's gonna take a picture. He just instinctively decides to point the camera in the room and say, "Are you here?" Snaps a picture, puts down the picture that pops out, and it develops with the word yes. So this is like the first real instance of them realizing like there's a possibility that maybe there's communication here because they ask a direct question and got a direct answer. Mitkowski grabs the camera and decides to ask, "What is your name?" And the name Wright appears, as in like the last name Wright, appears on the picture. And so from then on out, they at least have a name to refer to whatever this is. Over time, they decide to test this further because they still at this point don't know if maybe it's just coincidence that whatever is making these weird wispy marks in the film when they're in the house just happened to make it look like a word, or if it was an actual communication attempt by something they couldn't see. So further tests were done with more questions and more answers popping up. One of the questions they asked were, "Are you a good ghost or a bad ghost?" And the word friend appeared on the picture. They also asked, "Who were you?" And a phrase appeared on this photograph, but it was in Latin. When they got this phrase translated into English, it said, "Among other things, a murder victim." Probably my favorite thing that came through these photographs whenever prompted was whenever they asked the question, "Where do you go when you're not here?" And it came back with the word flux. So this went on for quite a while, and their friend group is all very familiar with this activity, but at the time they decided to contact a TV show called Sightings that was on Fox, and they dealt with a lot of different unexplained activity and would usually go in and try and solve it, debunk it, conduct experiments, and kind of just see what was actually going on. So they get these people contacted and they want to do an investigation. So Mitkowski is at his house with a few people that he knows, and then the whole TV crew is at his house, and they set up the entire environment as a controlled test area so that no outside involvement was happening. They all knew they could trust whatever results they got. But after hours of doing this investigation, they still were getting nothing in the pictures. So it was very weird to them that they were doing this and not getting any activity. One of Mitkowski's friends, named Marty, decided he was going to take a shot at communicating with Wright. So he picks up the camera. Marty's question was, "Are most spirits good spirits or bad spirits?" And they waited with the group, and surprisingly, for the first time in hours since having these people there for this experiment, they actually got words back. And on this picture, it appeared the phrase, "There are numerous remedial lemurs." And at the time, they weren't sure what Wright was trying to say, like if they were referring to the animals or their behaviors, or if he was trying to make some kind of joke. But they did figure out that in Roman mythology, the term lemur means night-walking spirits of the dead. So that phrase alone means quite a lot, because are a lot of spirits good spirits or bad spirits? Well, they're just new here, so you don't really know yet. You know, that's kind of the vibe that I get from that, right? So the test group was thrilled at this activity, and of course, being a test group, they decided, you know, we need to switch out the film, we need to do this again, repeat the experiment, we need to see what's going on. So they did, and in the new film, they kept getting new answers. One of the questions asked was, are you here for John or here for the house? And it replied in Latin with a phrase that translated to the guardian spirit of a man or place. And then there was also a question that was, Wright, will you be with them for a long time? An answer, again in Latin, translated to, all this is over now. And then it stopped replying. Not just that day, but forever. After this show aired, and after the experience that they went through with them, it kind of opened them up to a lot more people knowing what was going on. So they were contacted by scientists and skeptics and believers and researchers and psychics and a bunch of people who really wanted to kind of explore the phenomena of what was going on in this house. A psychic named Peter James had decided that he wanted to do some further research into what was actually happening in this house. And while he was doing his research, he telepathically, kind of intuitively, got these three names. And he got Gilbert, Robert, and Amelia. John actually, whenever he was told these names, recognized them as three of the people who used to own the house. Because he'd done some research. He wanted to find out if anybody named Wright had lived there or if there was any kind of connection to the house. So he was already a little taken aback. But the psychic had told him he didn't believe those entities were Wright, and that Wright might actually be linked to somebody else because he felt like the site itself was a very sacred ceremonial site from a Native American tribe that used to be in the area. He went on to say that he felt like a person was buried under the house, and that person was the Wright entity that was writing on these Polaroids. Again, being the type of people that they are, Mikowski and his friends and everybody kind of decided to research this a little further and see if they could debunk this. So they dug around the house, and they ended up finding pottery and various small artifacts that they gave to an archaeologist, and the archaeologist came back with, these were most likely the quality and the type that would be found at a sacred site. So that was already kind of verified that the psychic had some reliable information that he was being given. But the idea of moving the house to excavate to see if there was a body there was kind of not fathomable for them at that time, just because of resources and the time and energy and money it would take to do that. So that's never been fully investigated. But the people who live there feel like that's probably what's actually there. The photos themselves have been on tons of different TV shows since appearing on sightings, have been researched a lot. You can find lots of different groups that have talked about them and done things with trying to simulate similar activity on YouTube and online everywhere. And it's amazing to see that still to this day, they can't necessarily debunk what happened. There are some groups that were able to get similar results on Polaroid film with different words and things like that, but all of those took such long periods of time and manipulation to the film, and with how many people witnessed this activity, with the film just being brand new, being put in, popping out, developing, that they can't debunk it. They can't say that that's what caused it, because even to professionals who were able to create it, it was too complex of a scenario to have just an average person be able to do that in an instant, just in front of a group of people. I just recently discovered this story and was in love with it instantly. I actually found it on a YouTube video where you can see him actually conducting one of the experiments, and it develops right there. And with the age of the footage, I know that it's put online and people can do whatever, but this is the same footage that appeared on that show back whenever he was investigated then. And at that time, there was no way to manipulate that or to fake it. You know, we've had so many advances in technology, modern day movies can make that happen, no problem. But at that period in time, that wasn't a thing. So to be able to create that, like, right in front of a group of people is astounding, really. So I am so impressed by the footage of this actually happening in one take, and there will be links below because you need to watch it because it's just great. But there are a few clips. I did find online too that the book is available to purchase with all of the ghost photos in it. Oh my gosh, what I wouldn't do to have that book. I want it so bad. There are quite a few pictures that are publicly available online, which I'm sure you've seen throughout this video, but it's just one of the coolest things I have heard of and seen in a long time, and I had to make sure you guys were aware of it. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about Wright, the Polaroid writing ghost, not like Ghost Writer from the 90s PBS show. This one's way cooler. So yeah, I hope you guys liked hearing about it. If you did, leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can leave a thumbs down. That's fine too. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to comment below and let me know if you've heard of this story before, or if you haven't, like what your thoughts are. I would really be interested in finding out and reading your comments. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet and turn on notifications so that way you get notified anytime I get online. I'm Kat, and this is Paranormal Kativity. Have a strange day. Bye!